everybody, and welcome to the Alex Cuesta Daily Show. How are we doing today on this Thursday, February 24th of 2022? Before we get into any of the fun stuff, as always, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes, and also spread this word of mouth. Tell everyone you know this is a great daily show. It's not too long, and it's pretty damn interesting. You should give it a listen. So let's get right into it today. Biden COVID tracker. It is sitting at, from yesterday, 78,595,883 cases, deaths, 938,138. As of today, numbers have gone up. 78,676,939 cases. That is up 81,056, which is positive. Dipping underneath 100,000 is a good thing. In terms of deaths, 941,385. That is up 3,247. So the deaths are still sitting. But again, benefit of the doubt here, deaths do follow about 2 weeks behind. So we shall see if it starts to dip within next week. Hopefully next week we'll start to see a little bit of a dip in deaths. But that is where we are. We are holding Mr. Robinette accountable because, he's just doing such a bang-up job in every which way that we got to hold Joe Biden to some of his flaws. He's been such a good president so far that we got to hold him to something. So here we are. We're in the middle of arguably the worst global conflict in our current generation, especially in Americans. We just had the war on terror that just ended for 20 years. We had the shock of 9/11, but that never felt, it hurt. It hurt the country. Losing 3,000 people in the Twin Towers hurt. I was young. I was in 6th grade for it. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was one of those, where were you when this type of stuff happened? And it was crazy, but it never felt like we were on the brink of something truly global. Maybe if I was older, I would have felt a little different, but you knew you were going to war. I spent 20 years of my life hearing about the wars in, the war on terror and the skirmishes that continued to happen, the casualties that continued to occur. I've lost a few friends to the war on terror. It sucks. It did suck. There's something different feeling about this Ukraine-Russia conflict. This is on the heels of the most embarrassing pullout in the history of the country. Vietnam was embarrassing. Afghanistan was the worst thing foreign that we have done in terms of pulling out like that. It was utterly embarrassing. And now a guy who, I keep on talking about Biden's campaign promises, but you got to hold him to these things. He campaigned on as a guy that knows Vladimir Putin well. It's on a first name basis with Putin. That would be a guy that Putin doesn't want to see because he knows he's tough. He'll handle it. He's got a plan to handle Russia, to deter Russia. I played the campaign ad yesterday where he was talking about how Eastern Europe is not going to be under his tyranny anymore. And here we are. Kiev is hanging on. They're fighting their asses off. The Ukrainians are being as brave as they can be. They are fighting back. But it's only a matter of time. The capital is being besieged north, south, east. The Russians have superior weaponry. They have superior tactics. They have superior armaments and equipment. There's no way Ukraine can hold on their own. And they're not going to. President Zelensky's now in a bunker. And it's getting bad. It's getting bad. It looks like Russia's gonna take Kiev. They're gonna win a war the old-fashioned way. Take the capital, sack the capital, fold the government. But we'll see what goes on from here. Because Lviv is has been said to be the cultural capital of Ukraine. It's another extremely important city in Ukraine. They're gonna have no choice but to kind of capitulate to whatever government, the Russian government, does. I don't even know if they're going to put a puppet government there. I think they might just say, your government's done. You now answer to President Putin. It's over. He's the guy. And it's scary. It's scary because I just read another article that China yet again buzzed Taiwan defensive airspace. They went in. The Taiwanese scrambled their military and they were ready to go. This is happening, everybody. Russia is not going to back down. Russia is not going to stop. Anybody that thinks that they are scared of NATO is wrong. Anyone thinks that Putin is scared of NATO is wrong. He doesn't like NATO. He doesn't want them on his doorstep, which is why he fought for Ukraine to not be a member of NATO nations. He doesn't want to allow his enemies to stockpile weapons and have bases that close to him. That's the reason why, but he's not fearful of them. And I think one of the main reasons he's not fearful of them is, like I said yesterday, the true weakness of the West right now. The West is at the weakest point in my life and possibly in history. There isn't a single strong leader amongst the Western nations. And there's not a single fearless leader amongst the Western nations that is willing to stand on a bully pulpit on his own, his or her own, and truly condemn this and truly put action. Not just useless sanctions, especially ones when they're not against SWIFT and they're not against Putin himself. They're not truly going to cripple them. Europe is not willing to hurt their own economies right now in order to deter Putin from taking the rest of Ukraine. Yeah, Joe Biden say today that the sanctions were never meant to stop him right away. That, it's a long-term game. He was willing and ready to sacrifice Ukraine from the get-go. And not to mention, I did cover an article a little while ago where Senator Cruz, Ted Cruz, put out a bill of sanctions to put on the Nord Stream pipeline and other assets of Russia as a preemptive strike to deter them from coming in. So that when we did levy more sanctions, those were already starting to take effect. It was a smart strategy that was shot down by the Democrats in favor of Bob Menendez's bill, which was a bill to put sanctions down when they moved in. And they sold it as it would be more impactful because they are heavier sanctions, because they're more consequential. And now you have Biden coming out today saying that the sanctions were never meant to be a deterrent. It's a sad state of affairs that he's such a weak man, that he's such a bad leader. You have to think it might be intentional at this point, that we might have a traitorous president in Joe Biden. I know it's crazy to think, but God, if you look into things that are going on globally and the things that he's starting to implement globally, and I don't give him the benefit of the doubt if he's not all there. I don't give him the benefit of that doubt. He's never been a good dude. He never has. So I don't give him the benefit of that doubt. And we are in a really, really, really sad, dire straits right now. Because China is going to take Taiwan, and you're going to hear the same old tired arguments. We should not get involved. We have nothing to do with Taiwan. We don't care about that country. They basically are Chinese anyway. They might as well just give it up to them. Who cares? And then when Russia wants the next country, and they say, even if it's a NATO nation, well, look at this large pocket of Russian speakers on the coast here, on the border. We're just going to take that because that's ours. We're already right there. We're already in Ukraine. We have all of Ukraine now. And now these NATO countries, these border people, they want to be a part of Russia again. So we're just going to go ahead and take it. And NATO try to do something. Mark my words. This weak leadership is not good. It's not good. Nothing good can come from this. These elections in 2022 could possibly be too late in November. We might not have the time because they don't get in to their seats until January anyway. We got to do something at the ballot box to get weak leadership out of there. If it's making an overwhelming majority of good populist conservatives that understand geopolitical things like this, not the ones on Twitter that are wanting to be isolationist and crying like bitches about, don't you want to send your kid, your son and daughter to go die? No, nobody does. But there are people that volunteer for the military for a reason. We have the biggest and strongest military for a reason. The people that volunteer are volunteering for things like this. There is American reasons to go and defend Ukraine. There is. It's bigger than just resources. It's bigger than just money. And maybe that's why they're not doing it. Because it's not just money, but it is going to affect us. Look at the gas prices. Let's look at all the supply chain shit. It's going to get bad. It's going to get bad. You think it's bad now? Buckle up. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So let's get on to the main article and let's talk about some strong leadership, which this is coming from me, who's a guy that I'm not a true fan of the person that did this. The article, it's from Blaze Media, theblaze.com. And it's Abbott directs Texas agencies to investigate sex change procedures for trans youths as child abuse. It was written by Chris Pandolfo, and it was written yesterday on the 23rd. Let's read it. Texas Governor Greg Abbott has ordered state agencies to investigate reports of gender-dysphoric children undergoing sex change procedures as child abuse, in accordance with an opinion released by the state attorney general's office earlier this week. I'm 100% against kids getting sex changes. I will come out and say that. And this might piss off anyone that I know or anyone that listens in the trans community, but I'm 100% against kids doing it. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Let's keep going before I go some more. There's more to talk about here. In a letter to the Department of Family and Protective Services sent Tuesday, Abbott noted the agency is responsible for protecting children from abuse. The governor said that under Texas law, doctors, nurses, and teachers are required to report instances of alleged abuse and that there are criminal penalties for licensed professionals who fail to do so. Texas law imposes reporting requirements upon all licensed professionals who have direct contact with children who may be subject to abuse, including doctors, nurses, and teachers, and provides criminal penalties for failure to report such child abuse, Abbott said. And he's directly correct. There is a lot of child abuse currently going on. This is specifically talking about trans children here. But man, there needs to be a class action lawsuit against anybody who's been masking our fucking kids for 2 years. That's straight up child abuse. And it should be litigated. And it should be the country of the United States versus the government. And any government. The state of versus this state government. They should represent the people and the kids against whatever governments decided to mask kids, whether it's federal with the recommendations with the CDC, suing the CDC for recommending it in recklessness, whether it's suing the states. I'm a little off track, but it mentioned child abuse, and I needed to put that in there. Let's keep going. His letter was copied to several other state agencies, including Health and Human Services Commission, Texas Medical Board, and Texas Education Agency. The Dallas News first reported Abbott's letter, which was sent one day after Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton released an opinion that determined certain medical and chemical procedures recommended for transgender people constitute illegal abuse when performed on children. The Attorney General's opinion is not legally binding, but former officials told the Dallas News that there is a general expectation that agency directors will follow them. So we're going to talk about a little bit what Ken Paxton said, a little more detail here, but he's directly right. And when I said a person I didn't like, I'm not a big fan of Governor Abbott. Governor Greg Abbott to me is a little wishy-washy. I am a fan of Attorney General Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton has been a strong AG, a very good AG, and he continues to be on the right side of a lot of these social topics. And he's doing it at the state level where it can be affected. I'm very much against people voting federally for social issues because that's not the federal's place to decide a lot of social things. You don't want sweeping federal mandates on social issues, but you do want it at the state level. And this is where it can be decided, and this is where it can have an effect because state supersedes federal on all this shit. Let's keep going. The specific sex change procedures identified in Paxton's opinion include castration, surgery to remove male genitals, surgeries to remove the female reproductive system, plastic surgeries to construct artificial genitals, so-called top surgery to remove female breasts, or any procedure that removes a healthy or non-diseased body part or tissue from children when not medically necessary. Bravo, Mr. Paxton. Bravo. Because, when we grow up, you hear about, African tribes that do these weird exotic shit where they, they still castrate their women and they do those types of things. Or we talk about the Arabs that do it. And we sit there and we're like, they're barbaric. Why the fuck would they do that to women? That's insane. That's crazy. But here we are. There's a group of people that defend doing the exact same thing to kids, to minors who can't figure out what a healthy breakfast is half the time because they're still being taught what is right and wrong. But there are people defending the right for minors to get castrated. They're defending the right of minors to, if they're boys, to have their genitals removed, if they're girls, to have their reproductive systems removed. They're defending their rights to get plastic surgeries to make genitals of genders that they aren't, they're the opposite sex, to remove women's breasts, which have been shown to really hurt a female psyche, which is why women that have their breasts moved for breast cancer often go for plastic surgery because it helps them feel like women again. This is what we're up against. These people are groomers and they're sick, the ones that defend this shit. Let's keep going. Paxton also said that providing cross-sex hormones to children, including puberty blockers, unnatural doses of testosterone for females, and unnatural doses of estrogen for males potentially constitutes child abuse. And that potentially should be gone from there. It should constitute child abuse. Because yet again, fucking chemically with kids during puberty or right before puberty, when it is their most formidable time, when they are growing the most, is a terrible thing to do. And it is child abuse, and it is evil to do that to kids. It is flat out evil. As a doctor to do it, as a parent to agree to it, it is evil. Let's keep going. These determinations are qualified with the acknowledgement that in rare circumstances, some of these procedures are medically necessary for children with a medically verifiable genetic disorder of sex development, or who do not have the normal sex chromosome structure for male or female as determined by medical testing. This opinion does not address or apply to medically necessary procedures, Paxton said. So there you go. He covers himself there because there are legitimate issues. There are legitimate hermaphrodites and things like that. I don't even know if hermaphrodite is the right word, but there are legitimate times where these things are necessary. Where, you know, in order for someone to become reproductively viable, they will need an impulse of estrogen, of testosterone, or things like that. That is necessary. But again, it is to be determined by a doctor, not by a kid saying they feel a different way about their body. Let's keep going. The effect of Abbott's order is yet to be determined. It has drawn immediate opposition from transgender advocates, and some progressive prosecutors have said they will not follow the Attorney General's interpretation of the law. I will preface this before I start reading it. Every single one of these fucking people and every single transgender activist that is against this law is pure evil, and they are groomers, and they are pedophiles, and they are sick. Let's keep going here. My office will not participate in these bad faith political games, said Harris County Attorney Christian D. Menefee in a statement on Tuesday. As the lawyers handling these cases, we owe a duty of candor to the courts about what the law really says. We'll continue to follow the laws on the books, not General Paxton's politically motivated and legally incorrect opinion. So here it is. They're trying to call this politically motivated. They're trying to call defending kids from being abused politically motivated. So Christian D. Menefee is an evil piece of shit. Flat out. Remember that name, people. That person is evil. They support child abuse. Let's keep going. Let's find out some more child abusers. The Travis District and county attorneys also told the Dallas News they will not prosecute child abuse cases when gender dysphoric children are given a so-called gender-affirming treatment. So they support child abuse. The Republican leadership of this state is trying to turn loving and supportive parents into criminals, and this office will play no part in it, said County Attorney Delia Garza. Sorry, I cannot read right now. Said County Attorney Delia Garza. So Delia Garza is a liar. It is not loving and supportive as a parent to allow your child to get a procedure that may affect them for the rest of their lives. It is well different than allowing your kid to put on a dress to play with something that is quote unquote opposite sex. I have 2 daughters. If they become interested and tell me they want to be little boys, I will let them dress in boy clothes. I will let them do quote unquote boy things. They could play with GI Joes. They could constantly do cops and robbers, play with guns, want to play football as a kid, wrestle, do whatever the fuck they want. They cannot get a sex change. They cannot get any of this shit until they're 18. They're 18, they can do what they want. If they still feel that way and they want to change, you're an adult legally. You could do what you want, do it up. As the parent, as the person, the guardian who does know what is better for them than they do, that is why we are guardians of these people. We know better than they do. That is our role. That's the difference. If you're a parent that is allowing this to occur, then you're a terrible person. There is no situation where it is excusable for you to allow a minor to get this surgery. There is no situation. And I don't care if they're 17, about to be 18, and that just let them do it. They're going to do it anyway. No. You supported it. You are a child abuser, period. Let's keep going. The Office of District Attorney Jose Garza said they will likewise decline to prosecute cases based on Paxton's guidance. I said my piece on those people. State agencies have mostly remained silent since the governor sent his letter. We will follow Texas law as explained by Paxton's opinion, said DFPS spokesperson Patrick Crimmins in a statement to the Dallas News. At this time, there are no pending investigations of child abuse involving the procedures described in that opinion. So it was kind of a very vanilla way of saying, we're going to do it, but maybe not. The guidance from Paxton and Abbott contradicts the medical advice from national medical groups, including the American Medical Association, American Psychiatric Association, and American Academy of Pediatrics, which believe the best way to care for transgender children is to affirm their self-proclaimed gender identity. Yeah, I'm sorry, that is wokeness getting into our fucking medical community, and it's sick. The AMA is disgusting. The APA is disgusting. The AAP is disgusting. They all support child abuse, and they are groomers. They are groomers. Because I wonder if they would share the same opinion if a kid quite literally wanted to just survive off of, I don't know, think of a candy. I can't think of Jolly Ranchers. They just want to survive solely off Jolly Ranchers because they were 12 and they knew in their hearts, in the pits of their soul, that Jolly Ranchers were easily the most healthy thing for them. And that's all they need to survive. They don't need anything else. So instead of arguing with them and saying, no, you fucking kid, you don't know what you're talking about, you 12-year-old, you're wrong. You will get cavities and it will hurt you. You will become diabetic and it would probably kill you if you continue to do this. And caring for that kid, these agencies will go, no. This kid feels that strongly about Jolly Ranchers that it is in them, it is in their essence, and denying that to them will cause them harm. Let them eat Jolly Ranchers all the time. It is medically good to let them do it all the time. That is the same basis, saying that minors have the agency to make these decisions. Let's keep going. The World Professional Association for Transgender Health, a group that recommends the standards of care for people experiencing gender dysphoria, says that sex change surgeries are not recommended until a patient has reached a legal age of maturity and has lived continuously for at least a year in the gender role they identify with. That makes sense. The legal age of maturity in the United States is 18. They did a year in whatever they wanted to be. If they still like it, go for it. Legally, they can do it. There's nothing binding them. They're adults. The group standards recommend that cross-sex hormones should only be given to youth after the onset of puberty and after mental health evaluation. Children who have not reached puberty are recommended to seek mental health care to treat gender dysphoria, but care that attempts to help gender dysphoric children accept and identify with their biological sex has been likened to conversion therapy and is opposed by medical groups. So there is a way to walk this line here. As a professional, they should understand what type of mental health care they should be able to provide. It's not necessarily coming to terms with your biological sex. If you are a child and you feel that you are in the wrong sex, you should be able to talk it out. Why? But here's the difficulty here. It is difficult to crack the shell of kids because kids are very black and white. And then as they hit puberty, they become even more complicated because they're already egomaniacs that think everyone that's 4 years or plus or older than them is a bunch of fucking too old idiots to understand what they're going through. puberty really screws a lot of things up mentally already. You're already super insecure. And now you want to add on to this? Well, you feel different because you are different, so let's go get it done. And then we want to put them into mental therapy, which they do need. If you're gender dysphoric, you do need to go get some help. But we're going to put them in therapy, and then we're going to try and mess with them that way. It's difficult. It's a difficult situation. But at the same time, a lot of kids go through these things called fads, where they like to do things that seem cool, or mentally they might think that's the right thing at that time. But they also thought that zit that grew on their head that nobody noticed was the worst thing since sliced bread, and they couldn't walk out until it was gone. So they wanted to skip school every day until it was gone. But you have to force that kid to go because it's the right thing for that kid to attend school. Well, it used to be. Now public schools are fucked, but still. Let's keep going here. There are serious risks to cross-sex hormone therapies, which include decreased sexual function, increased health risks, sterility, and more. WPATH blasted the governor's action in a statement. Targeting trans youth, their parents, and their healthcare providers for political gain is unconscionable. We strongly denounce this alarmist and misguided opinion, which could obstruct access to medically necessary care, WPATH told the Dallas News. But it actually can't, you fucking idiots, because Paxton specifically said that if it is medically necessary, it is not to be constituted as child abuse. So no. You do not give minors carte blanche to make these types of life-changing decisions. And that should be the end of it. Let's keep going. The LGBT advocacy group Equality Texas characterized what Abbott and Paxton have done as campaign stunts meant to fend off primary challengers from the right in the upcoming election on Tuesday. We urge all Texans to be skeptical about campaign stunts disguised as legal opinions from a corrupt politician who has no expertise in healthcare and who has built their career spreading disinformation about marginalized communities. The Equality Texas CEO Ricardo Martinez in a statement. So yeah, trust that guy who speaks in these types of terms. Honestly, all the buzzwords that you could hit there about, campaign stunts, disguise, marginalized communities, and what a fucking loser. No proof at all in any of that statement. None of them. Just making allegations here. On the other side, social conservative groups applauded Paxton's opinion. Children cannot consent to taking drugs and undergoing surgeries that can permanently sterilize them and radically alter the course of their lives. And any person who assists or encourages minors in pursuing these ends is committing child abuse, period, said Terry Schilling, president of the American Principles Project. APP strongly commends AG Paxton for courageously standing up for Texas's children in the face of these attacks. And we urge other state attorney generals to follow his lead to protect the innocence of our nation's kids from the woke ideologies and big pharma executives eager to exploit them, he added. So yes, applaud to Terry Schilling as well, because that is true. Everything he said there is true. It is not up for dispute. And it's not transphobic to say it. I don't care about transphobic adults. They can do what they want. They can do whatever the fuck they want. There is no such thing as a transphobic child. They don't exist. They don't. It's just not a thing, because no kid should be allowed to change their sex before maturity. They should be definitely tested for mental health first, because usually this type of self-doubt goes with depression and much deeper chemical imbalances in the body. So yes, it should be looked into. They should get help. It will be difficult, but it is better than fucking up their lives. Because the suicide rate in the trans community is absolutely bonkers. And there is no reason to wonder why. And lastly, about all this trans shit, especially with young girls, because it's the worst with young girls. There's more young girls being pushed into this nonsense than anything. What's fucked up here is, for years, me growing up, the fight has been to make lesbians, gay, homosexuality normalized. And as it seems to have been normalized, and because nobody cares if you're gay or not, it's completely accepted. Homosexuality, for the most part, is completely accepted. Yeah, you have your bigoted motherfuckers. But for the most part, male, female homosexuality is pretty damn mainstream at this point. So what's the issue now? Because it's mainstream, because it's static, and because these people believe in critical theories, which is always there to problematize, they need to move on to something else. You can't problematize something that's become mainstream. You can't problematize something that's become static, that's become okay. So what do? They move on to another extreme. They move on to trans. And what trans is doing is two things to the female community, especially. One, it's taking away a girl's ability to be a tomboy. We don't hear about tomboy girls anymore, do we? No, because all tomboy girls are pushed into, well, you're probably a boy anyway. They're pushed into mental health situations, and they are abused mentally. It's first the mental health abuse, it's mentally abusing. And then they actually go for the physical abuse that changes. And even worse, they're turning a lot of girls who might just be gay, who might just be lesbians, and now making them get sex changes and turning them into boys when maybe they were just lesbians. So this whole thing is more than just fighting for advocacy. It's because they can't sit static. The whole entire critical theory base, gender theory, queer theory, all this type of shit, it has no purpose if it's not finding a problem and dismantling the problem. So once a problem stops being a problem and it can't be dismantled anymore, a la homosexuality in 2022, they need to move on. So what do? They attack people for being transphobic. It's the next thing they could dismantle the problems with transphobia. And it won't stop. If transsexual people become mainstream, they'll fucking find something else. Because it's never enough. They live in the dialectic process. So here we go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. As always, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. And if you want to find us on these socials, please, The Alex Cuesta Show. Search that. You'll find it anywhere you can find a podcast. And hopefully the world is still standing tomorrow with this whole entire conflict. I shall see everyone, God willing, tomorrow. So long all.